In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, Amen. Good evening and welcome to everyone. Welcome to our 17th annual Lenten lecture series here at St. George Greek Orthodox Church. Our Friday evening theme this year is Orthodox Christianity in America. We who live in America may take for granted the history of Orthodox Christianity in our country. How and when did it arrive on our shores? Who brought it here? We hope to answer these questions and more as we look at several ethnic expressions of Orthodoxy in America, including the Greek, the Russian or Ossetic, the Romanian, the Antiochian. This will include the history, major developments, and current challenges. We've already covered Russian Orthodoxy in our first lecture a couple weeks ago, and this evening we are going to be covering Greek Orthodox history in America, and we are pleased to welcome our special guest. Our lecturer this evening is Father Jason Houck, and as many of you know Father Jason because he grew up here in the Twin Cities. St. Mary's Greek Orthodox Church is his home parish, and where he is now the associate pastor since 2015. You may also know that he's a graduate of the University of Minnesota with a bachelor's degree in finance. He's a graduate, of course, of our seminary, Holy Cross Greek Orthodox School of Theology, when he finished in 2005. And after that, he served as youth director at St. Notarius Greek Orthodox Church in Charlotte, North Carolina. He also earned a Master's of Theology in Biblical Studies in the New Testament at Boston College in 2012. And after ordination to the priesthood, he served St. Constantine and Helen Greek Orthodox Church of Washington, D.C. for 3 years until he arrived here, back home, with his wife, Presbytera Alexandra, and then 3 children, Paul, Lydia, and Silas, and now a 4th, Philip. So please help me welcome Father Jason Houck.
Thanks, Father. So tonight, as you can see in the program, I'm going to speak to you a little bit about the Greek Orthodox Archdiocese here in America and how it was established and some of its history. You know, the establishment of the Greek Orthodox Archdiocese, the church here, can be viewed in a way like a mosaic. Each mosaic we can look at contributes to the whole picture, right? You see little pieces of it. That is the kind of approach I'd like to take here at in this lecture, trying to describe the whole by looking at some specifics that tell the story. I want first to describe a few of the early Greek Orthodox parishes that we'll take a look, and the character of which might surprise you a little bit. It should be noted here before launching into the history of the Greek Archdiocese here in America, that there was a colony of Greeks, right? And some, actually there was a lot of Italians at New Smyrna, right? In Florida, close to St. Augustine, all the way back in 1768. But we should know that they didn't actually have an Orthodox priest there, and so the colony was soon disbanded. There's all kinds of nice books that I might share with you guys. This one maybe you have in your library here at the church. I don't know what this one's about. New Smyrna. You can kind of just pass that around and maybe you can just put it back on the table there. If you're interested anyway. So let's talk about a few of the really early Greek parishes. Okay, some of the really early ones. New Orleans. Okay, New Orleans. The first Greek parish was debatably in New Orleans in 1864. That's a long time ago. 1864. Established by Greek merchants under the direction of Nicholas Banakis, the consul of the Kingdom of Greece in New Orleans. Okay? The consulate. This parish, however, included Russians and Serbians. Much of its early history was lost, but we know that services were in Greek, English, and Old Church Slavonic. The official records were in English until 1904, and then they switched over to Greek. And we'll figure out why that is later on. The parish accepted gifts and vestments from the Russian Tsar, Alexander II, but there's no indication it was under the Russian Orthodox Archdiocese. It became part of the Greek Archdiocese in 1921. And these pan-Orthodox and multicultural beginnings of this parish might surprise us, but is not unique to these early parishes. A second early parish that we can read about was in San Francisco. It began in 1867 as a parish of both Greeks and Russians. It had members working at the Russian consulate and the Greek consulate in San Francisco. It had a priest assigned from Russia in 1868. And services were in both Old Church Slavonic and in Greek. A third example is from the years 1870 and lasted to 1883. There was a chapel in New York City called the Greek-Russian Church. The congregation was mostly made of Greek and Russian consulate workers again, and about 100 of other Orthodox who lived in New York City. In 1883, the Russian government withdrew all its financial support from the chapel and it closed. Now, historians are uncertain of the reason, but it's suspected that the Russians were maybe uncomfortable with the missionary efforts of the parish. Okay, they had a priest that was very kind of mission-minded. Okay, and again, these three early examples all had like a pan-Orthodox flavor to it. Okay? Maybe not quite what we expected. So the very early Greek Orthodox parishes or chapels were pan-Orthodox in nature. Due to the very small numbers of Orthodox Christians in the new land, these very early parishes, before the establishment of the Greek Archdiocese, were small and, in order to survive, were pan-Orthodox in nature, right? And we see that a lot, especially in small towns here, today. But waves of Greek immigration kind of changed all that, right? Large numbers of immigration. Greek immigration after 1891 increased notably. Between 1891 and 1920, more than 400,000 arrived from Greece to the United States, plus another 200,000 from Asia Minor, right? Like the point, they came from Asia Minor too. Because when we think of the Greeks, it's not just modern Greece, right? We think of Asia Minor, we think of Cyprus, okay? So 400,000 between 1891 and 1920. Think of this wave of that many people. And it should be noted too that about 25% of them went back to Greece. So they were like truly diaspora, like they spread out and they came back. Okay? These early immigrants often migrated from the same island or village, right, to the same American city. We probably have stories of that in our own families, right? So a sizable number of immigrants in a city would join together and make a mutual aid society named after a saint or a place or a revolutionary hero. Okay? There's all kinds of interesting histories. You guys can take a look at a couple other books. Some of the early history you can read about of the Greek Archdiocese and also other archdioceses. There's a book, The Orthodox Church, by Father Thomas Fitzgerald, History at Holy Cross. If anyone else is giving a lecture in this series, Juliana is in here today, you would probably be able to use this book. And you can pass that around too if you want to take a look. Anyway, so there's all this migration, okay, and immigration, okay, to the United States. And this same history, it's pretty interesting here, right here in Minnesota. We don't have to think about New York or Chicago or whatever. We have a lot of interesting history here. So this immigration trend that you join the people of your own village in another place clearly played out here in Minnesota. And I'm talking about the early immigration, right, to Minnesota. The early immigrants came from the southeastern Peloponnesos, right? You think of the people from Nyata and stuff, right? So especially from the town of Nyata and others nearby, like my ancestors who came from Sikiak, which is about, just 10 kilometers from there. And my ancestors, they went to Virginia, Minnesota. Virginia, Minnesota, Iron Range. So small numbers of Greeks came as early as the 1880s in Minnesota, but larger numbers came between 1900 and 1910. In fact, in 1910, there were about 1,840 Greeks in Minnesota. In 1910, there were, according to census numbers, because they weren't all in the twin cities, right? 463 Greeks in Minneapolis and 129 in St. Paul. So mostly centered around, Minneapolis. But unlike some of their contemporary Western European immigrants, the Greeks didn't have enough money to start farms themselves, right? You think of, some of the people from Western Northern Europe, coming to the United States and to Minnesota and starting farms. Well, they didn't have the money to do that. And also, the people from the southeastern Peloponnese, they had a bad taste in their mouths for farming, right? You think of the rocky, dry soil. It's not like exactly an easy place for farming. So, of the Greek farmers that are in the United States in 1910, we think there are 846 of them, according to censuses. Only 12 of them live in Minnesota, so hardly any of the Greeks that came here took up farming, unlike a lot of the other Europeans that came here. Instead of farming, they strove to be self-employed with confectionery stores, such as my family, shoe shine parlors, and florist shops. Many worked for relatives when they first came, such as Michael Poole, my grandfather. He worked for his brothers before going into business for themselves. They're upwardly mobile people. My own grandfather had a similar story. So his brothers came about in the 1890s. Okay, really early. My family's an early immigrants, and they went to Virginia because it was a boom town, right? There's mining, and there was the lumber industry, right? Virginia, Minnesota, and his brothers had, I should say, a candy store. Okay, a candy store, Cane Lakes Candies, an Olympia candy store, and then my grandfather kind of learned the trade, but he didn't really get into candy making, but he had his own kind of store and a soda fountain and such in Virginia, Minnesota. So anyway, these hardworking immigrants came over, and the ones that were in Minneapolis and St. Paul established St. Mary's Greek Orthodox Church in 1900. And the Greeks that were up north more established Holy Apostles in Duluth in 1921, including my ancestors. So, early communities were founded here and there across the country before the Greek Archdiocese was officially formed. Okay, we're going to get a little bit into this kind of interesting development. These communities, strongly linked to their homeland, carried with them their politics from Greece. You might know where I'm going with this. In Greece, in 1917, the Prime Minister Eleftherios Venizelos assumed power from King Constantine I. So it was a republic instead of kingdom. This caused a horrible rift, okay, among Greeks in Greece, and also among Greeks here in the United States, and right here in Minnesota. The rift between the royalists and the Republicans cannot be somehow, we can't understate this issue, okay? We can't understate it. In 1917, okay, a new metropolitan of Athens was appointed as the royalists lost power. So there's a new metropolitan of Athens, okay? New metropolitan. The newly appointed metropolitan Meletios, so his name, wanted to organize parishes in America, okay? The Greek parishes in America. He knew that there was a great need to have a bishop in America. Remember, they were just kind of little communities popping up, and they'd hire priests, and they'd fire priests, and it was not so orderly as we have it today, okay? So both Metropolitan Meletios and Bishop Alexander, okay, his appointee to oversee the parishes in America, were seen as Venizelos, okay, Republicans. Okay, they're in favor of the current government there after 1917. So when they tried to organize parishes in America, The Royalists in America urged priests to ignore the directives of Bishop Alexander, who was a Republican, a Venizelos, okay? And urged the faithful to disassociate themselves from the priests who accepted the authority of this representative of the synod, that is, Bishop Alexander. Many refused Alexander's authority. Politics, rather than canon law, had the greater influence on many of the immigrants. We also must remember, as Professor Salutos, let me pass him around another book. So he and others, let's see here, found some good books in the church library on all this history. There's this one, The Greeks in the United States, and pass that one around. We also remember, as Professor Salutos and others have written about, the parishes were very much, at that time, under the control of laity, and less so under the control of the clergy. Clergy were dismissed by local parish councils rather than by the local bishop, following the practice of their Protestant neighbors. To make the situation even more chaotic, okay, in 1920, the Venizelos party lost in Parliament, and the Royalists returned to power. Okay, so there's a flip now in the Greek government. Okay, the Royalists back in power. Metropolitan Meletios was removed. Okay, and Metropolitan Theoklitos was restored, the former Metropolitan of Athens. However, okay, Metropolitan Meletios protested and claimed to still be the legitimate Metropolitan of Athens, right? So Metropolitan Meletios, then, he was kind of forced out and he left Greece. And what did he do? He moved to America. He moved to America. Without regard to the decisions of the new Holy Synod that was in the Church of Greece, Metropolitan Meletios and Bishop Alexander continued to try to organize the parishes in America. Okay? This deepened divisions, right? It's a little bit confusing, so follow me here. So there's a change in the government. The bishops were working, not necessarily, not with the blessing of the synod in Greece, okay? So this really deepened divisions. So in 1921, Metropolitan Meletios, he actually called the first clergy laity congress. It incorporated the Greek Orthodox Archdiocese of North and South America in the state of New York in September of 1921. So now you have the official, at least from a legal standpoint in the U.S., the recognition of the Greek Archdiocese. But less than 2 months after the legal organization of the Greek Archdiocese, Metropolitan Meletios, okay, the one who's working here in the United States, became the ecumenical patriarch. It's kind of a drastic turn of events, really. Okay, kind of a drastic turn of events. The one who's trying to organize the parishes in the United States and did not have the blessing of the synod in Greece. Okay, all of a sudden he became patriarch of Constantinople. It was a big change. It's an interesting turn of events. Although now Patriarch of Constantinople, he had continued concern for the Greek church in America. He wrote this. This is what he said. I saw the largest and best of the Orthodox Church in the diaspora, and I understood how exalted the name of Orthodoxy could be, especially in the great country of the United States of America. If more than 2 million Orthodox people there were united into the one church organization, an American Orthodox Church, unquote. So, less than a month after his enthronement, so just right away, the Church of Constantinople decided in March of 1922 to revoke a 1908 statement that placed the diaspora Greeks under the temporary jurisdiction of the Church of Greece. In other words, The archdiocese switched from being under the Church of Greece, centered in Athens, to being under Constantinople. Okay, there's another big switch here, right? In May of 1922, the Greek Orthodox Archdiocese of North and South America became a province church of Constantinople, and Bishop Alexander, remember Meletius and Alexander who were trying to organize things here, became its first archbishop. So Bishop Alexander is our first archbishop of the Greek Orthodox Archdiocese of North and South America. But this didn't exactly solve everything. The strife continued between royalists and Republicans in America after the making of the archdiocese. The conflict and division gets even more complicated, but just to give a small summary, the Church of Greece, okay, had sent Metropolitan Germanos to bring the parishes under the control, the Church of Greece's authority in 1921. We'll back up a little bit. After Meletius was removed as Metropolitan of Athens. Remember, there's a switch, right? And then many zealots lost out. So that is when the royalists reassumed authority in Greece. Okay? Then, in March of 1922, the Patriarchate of Constantinople had transferred the Greek churches in America from the Church of Greece to under the control of the Ecumenical Patriarchate, as we said. But the Metropolitan Germanos of the Church of Greece continued to operate in America. Okay, the ones who was trying to keep things under the Church of Greece and not under the Patriarch of Constantinople. This is a confusing time, right? From 1917 through the 20s. So there was fighting. Are we under the Church of Greece, or are we under the Patriarch of Constantinople? Are we Republicans? Are we Royalists? So, but in 1923, okay, so just a short time after, the Church of Greece recalled Metropolitan Germanos back to Greece after improved relations between the Patriarchate of Constantinople and the Church of Greece in 1923. Okay, so at least they fixed that part. Okay, who are they under? But the division of royalists and many zealots, that continued. Some royalist parishes opposed Archbishop Alexander, and 3 new bishops of Chicago, Boston, and San Francisco had a separate archdiocese. Okay? In 1923, a Metropolitan Vasilios went to Lowell, Massachusetts. There's tons of Greeks in Lowell, Massachusetts. I don't know if you guys ever lived out that way, but there are lots of Greeks out there because of the textile industry. And they proclaimed him the head of an autocephalous metropolis of America and Canada. Maybe not canonically, but anyway. So in May of 1924, he was deposed by the Ecumenical Patriarchate. This is not canonical what they were doing. But he still continued his activity in the U.S. Still continued. And this division played out right here in Minnesota. Did you know that? That was a little before our time, right? But so this division played out in Minnesota too. The Royalists chose to fully cede from the Minneapolis community and bought their own church on 5th Street in southeast Minneapolis and called it St. George's. Now, okay, that was not the beginning of this St. George's, okay? This to be understood. It was a popular name, right? So that was not the beginning of this St. George community in St. Paul. Rather, this parish, later on, chose the same name, okay? We are told in the book, They Chose Minnesota, a survey of the state's ethnic groups. This is a great book. They have a great history of the Greeks here in Minnesota. Have you seen this one before? You could probably get it from the public library. Okay, it's published by the Minnesota Historical Society. It's a lovely book. You can pass that around. So the essay in there is from the one on the Greeks. I have it marked. Okay, I have a few things marked there with sticky notes. And that same Professor Salutos, he wrote the essay for that. He did a great job. It's a wonderful essay in there. Okay. Okay, so we are told in this book that we're passing around, They Chose Minnesota, a survey of the state's ethnic groups. This community preferred naming the church This church, okay, your community here, St. George, the people wanted to call it St. Paul, right? Because we're in St. Paul. Naturally, right? But the largest donor, as we're told in that book, had the honor of naming the church, and he named it St. George's. Anyway, the St. George's in southeast Minneapolis, the royalist one, right? The Systematic one, brought in a royalist priest, Father Josephides. Okay? Josephides. And when Prince Paul of Greece visited the Twin Cities in 1926, he only attended services at the royalist St. George's in southeast Minneapolis. During this division in the 1920s, most St. Paul Greek children, we are told in the same book that's being passed around, were baptized in the Venizelos St. Mary's community, okay, and not the royalist St. George's community in southeast Minneapolis. And just so we know, like, your grandparents, were they born, were they baptized in this? If you're wondering, they probably weren't. Okay, and I think that's pulled from your history here, one of your normative elements. So anyway, so lots of confusion, right, in the 20s. It's a rough time. To make things even worse, okay, I got another one. To make things even worse, the new calendar was introduced in 1923 that caused further division within the Greeks. The Julian versus the Gregorian calendar controversy with a 13-day difference, right? You know about that. Okay? The rival metropolis under Metropolitan Vasilios, who was royalist, retained the use of the old calendar. Okay? He also retained the use of the old calendar. Thus, the royalist parishes also used the calendar issue to justify their existence. Thus, the political views meshed with another cause, the old calendar view. Okay, so it's like a double thing here that's going on now. The situation, I think almost needless to say, was really bad under Archbishop Alexander at this time. The historian Peter Gouroulis, in his book, The Evolution of the Greek Orthodox Church in America and Its Present Problems, he wrote that in 1949 in this book. I just want to quote something. He wrote this: unfortunately, the 8-year reign of Archbishop Alexander, those were literally a nightmare, he writes. During this interval, our churches and communities have become divided battlegrounds in which Venizelos and royalists use physical violence even within the sanctuary of the Holy Altar. Police were stationed in strategic positions within some of our churches to actually prevent bloodshed. And of course, those shameful, disgusting incidents were reported on the front page of the American press, the awful humiliation and irreparable damage to our people throughout the country. With the ascendance of Photios II to the ecumenical throne, the Metropolitan of Corinth, the Maskinos, was dispatched to this country in May 1930 as patriarchal exarch in an effort to bring peace amongst the two warring factions that had devastatingly divided and destroyed our church in America. Fortunately, he says, in August of 1930, Athenagoras was elected our archbishop, unquote. By the way, you travel around the country and you can often tell which churches were royalist and which ones were Republicans. You know why? Does anyone have a guess? How can you tell? By the name. Oh yes, by the name. What do you think the St. Vasilios Church would be? Like royal, right? Vasilios, like royal. Or what's another one? Saints Constantine and Helen. I served at Saints Constantine and Helen, and definitely they were royalists 100 years ago. And sometimes you can see some of the, actually even some, sometimes political views are passed through generations, and sometimes those parishes are a little more conservative sometimes, politically. Okay. So, in 1930, okay, when Athenagoras became our archbishop, there was a shakeup where Archbishop Alexander was removed, okay? Archbishop Athenagoras was put in his place, And all the bishops, except one of the Greek bishops, were reassigned to new sees, new dioceses. So displacing all the entrenched bishops on both sides helped to put everyone on equal footing under Archbishop Athenagoras. Archbishop Athenagoras, later Patriarch of Constantinople, strove for unity. He visited parish after parish, traveling around the country to foster unity between the factions of the Venizelos and the Royalists. In fact, he visited Minneapolis in 1931 in an effort to heal the division here in Minneapolis. Others also tried to heal the division in Minneapolis. Okay? Like there's a women's group that we can read about in the church parish records called El Pida, right? Hope. In 1930, they strove to heal the division here in Minneapolis. And it says that El Pida, the group was supposed to be for helping the poor, but the real reason was to try and heal the Venizelos Royalist division. Okay? The ladies feigned political ignorance. And in 1931, the division, and so they could still meet the two groups, and keep the two groups like meeting, okay, with St. George and St. Mary's. Okay? And in 1931, the division was healed. But the second church building in southeast Minneapolis was retained for services and big holidays. Okay? Since the interior was actually bigger than the East Lake Calhoun Street location. And then they had it as like a chapel or whatever, a second church there, until it was sold to the Ukrainians in the 1950s and destroyed by fire in 1954. So anyway, after emerging from this challenge, it was really just a struggle to the 1920s through about 1931. The Greek Orthodox Church in America faced a new challenge. You know, in the 30s, they had the Depression. They also faced the challenge of adjusting from an immigrant community to a more Greek American community, eventually using more English, establishing institutions in the United States, such as Holy Cross Greek Orthodox School of Theology in 1937. So we're not getting our priests from the Greek seminary anymore. Okay? Those are different steps of the development of the archdiocese. Okay? Archbishop Athenagoras was the Archbishop of our Greek Orthodox Archdiocese of North and South America from 1931 to 1948. Under Archbishop Athenagoras, a more canonical state of affairs emerged, with the parishes and priests more firmly under the pastoral guidance of the bishops. Archbishop Athenagoras was later elected to the ecumenical throne in 1948. Archbishop Michael succeeded him, Archbishop Athenagoras, and was our archbishop from 1948 to 1958. He strove to have Orthodoxy recognized as a major faith in America and not to be grouped in with Protestants and Poles and reports. Right? So kind of getting more of a public face. Right? Another significant contribution of Archbishop Michael was to continue the efforts of Archbishop Athenagoras to obtain recognition of Orthodoxy as a major faith in the United States. He succeeded in having this resolution passed in 26 states. The recognition led Congress to adopt a bill that recognized Eastern Orthodox in the armed forces as separate from Catholics and Protestants. Because of this, Orthodox Christians included the initials EO, or for Eastern Orthodox, on their tags. So Archbishop Michael often visited Washington, D.C. In fact, you kind of still see that connection with that, as far as the metropolises are. Washington, D.C. is actually part of the Archdiocese, although in the middle of it, it's cut off by the New Jersey metropolis, right? But it's still because archbishops visit all the time in D.C. And I saw that, because I served there for a while. Anyway, so Archbishop Michael often visits D.C. and was the first archbishop invited by a U.S. president to deliver an invocation at the presidential inauguration. That was Eisenhower in 1957. Okay? So that legacy of giving a public face to Orthodoxy in public and political spheres continues today as our hierarchs, not only the Archbishop, will speak at the Republican and Democratic conventions, participate at the National Day of Prayer at the White House, promoting awareness among public figures regarding human rights of Christians in the Near East, the Middle East, etc. The Archbishop even speaks at the annual Greek Independence Day celebration at the White House. Try to read a little bit about that on the Greek Archdiocese or the HEPA website. These connections to the political center of our nation are important, not only to grace our government with an Orthodox presence, but also to inform and influence political figures on issues pertaining to our church, such as human and religious rights in Turkey, today, where our patriarch resides. So I was a kind of a witness to this when I served St. Constantine Helen in Washington, D.C., where we would get reports at our clergy meetings on meetings with public officials and attempts to inform and influence them. And, St. Constantine Helen was definitely a royalist church 100 years ago. So anyway, after Archbishop Michael was Archbishop Iakovos, right, that we've, known. From April of 1959 to July of 1996. Archbishop Iakovos offered 37 years of service, where he was distinguished for his leadership in furthering religious unity, revitalizing Christian worship, championing human and civil rights. Archbishop Iakovos served for 9 years as president of the World Council of Churches before he was archbishop. Established dialogues with Roman Catholics, Anglicans, Lutherans, Southern Baptists, and Black church leaders, and initiated Orthodox dialogue even with Judaism. In a successful effort to promote closer ties among Orthodox jurisdictions, he founded the Standing Conference of Canonical Orthodox Bishops in the Americas in 1960, right? SCOBA. Remember that, hearing about that? SCOBA. He's also noted for marching with Martin Luther King Jr. in Selma, in Alabama, right? You've probably seen the Life magazine, cover in 1965. Since he was born in Turkey, on the island of Ifros, he could relate to being a minority and having human freedoms repressed. Like his predecessors, Archbishop Iakovos kept his church in the public and political eye. He was acquainted with 9 presidents and with religious and political leaders worldwide. And he was cited in both houses of Congress and was paid official tribute in the congressional record. He also even received the Presidential Medal of Freedom by Jimmy Carter. So Archbishop Iakovos, he improved parish organizations, upgraded roles of the Archdiocesan Council, the biannual Clergy Lady Congress, Ladies Philotomos, and the Orthodox Observer, the newspaper. They introduced new archdiocese departments, including the Diocese of Church and Society, Youth Ministry, and encouraged the expansion of St. Michael's Home for the Aged, and St. Basil's over in New York. And he also founded a major gifts program for the Archdiocese. This might hit home a little bit more. Today called the Archbishop Iakovos Leadership 100 Endowment Fund. Okay? We in Minnesota can thank the Leadership 100 Endowment for many of the scholarships our children may receive at St. Mary's Summer Camp, right? And my seminary education was also paid in full by the Leadership 100. Thank you, Archbishop Iakovos. So, one thing that's, let's see, how are we on time here? 15 minutes. Towards the end of his, at the end of his tenure as Archbishop, Archbishop Iakovos, he presided over SCOBA, right, being the senior, as far as, being from other Patriarch of Constantinople. And they had a meeting in Ligonier, Pennsylvania, where they stated that they wanted to have a United Orthodox Church here in America, right? Like one archdiocese. Okay? And what he was shortly after, removed. Okay, some people saw that as kind of like a power grab by Iakovos, and feared, what he might have been doing. Okay? So the aim was really that Ligonier, they wanted to have a United Orthodox Church. I had a professor at Holy Cross, Father Nicholas Apostola, okay? He's a Romanian, and he was secretary of Scopa during Ligonier. And he said it was so great, you know, like it was just like, he said it was like Pentecost, you know, it was just the Spirit-filled, and he was so happy about this whole thing. And then it was just, you know, quashed. And all of a sudden Archbishop Jacobos was no longer Archbishop. Right? Then Archbishop Spiridon came. And he had kind of a short and tumultuous tenure from 1996 to 1999. Okay? In 1996, also the Greek Archdiocese of America, of North and South America, of North America, sorry, excuse me. The Greek Archdiocese of America was established as the Greek Archdiocese of North and South America split into 4 separate archdioceses. This is a big change, right? So there was one of America, which we're in, one of Canada, Central America, and South America. So, anyway, Spiridon, like his predecessor, he also was involved with ecumenical dialogue and served as the only he was the first and only American-born archbishop. Remember that? He lived in Ohio until he was 9 years old, and then he moved to Greece. He moved back to the U.S. when he was 16. And I recall, you know, that being an American, you know, people thought, oh, maybe this would be like a little bit different, maybe it'd be more in tune with our needs or something like that. But he had kind of a short, tumultuous tenure. We don't need to get into the details. But he did have some notable successes. He took numerous initiatives in the areas of adult religious education, interfaith marriage and research. Okay, think of the work of Father Charles Ioannidis, okay, and his office there at the Archdiocese. They really took a good look at like how there's intermarriage and you know where's the Archdiocese going, you know, demographically. Okay, that started under Archbishop Spiridon. And there's an expanded internet presence for the Greek Archdiocese. Okay, and that's like a big. You know, another big kind of legacy, right? That we have a good archdiocese website. Anyway, so finally, he was there for just a short time, and finally, that brings us to our current Archbishop Dimitrios. He's seen a little bit of like a pacifier after the tumultuous tenure of Archbishop Spiridon, and like his predecessors, he continued to provide a public face for the Greek Orthodox Archdiocese, especially in regard to different issues of Greek interest, and also the 9/11 attacks. Okay? Like his predecessor, he made a special effort to support ministries related to marriage and family, and in 2005, he responded to the needs of contemporary families by proclaiming it the Year of the Family. Remember that one? For the parishes and ministries of the Archdiocese. This initiative followed the appointment of an Archdiocesan Round Table on the Family, the establishment of the Center of Family Care in an effort to address the tremendous challenges our contemporary world is pressing upon all our families. Okay? It's a good effort. You know, they produce some very good material. You can check that out on the Archdiocese website. So like his predecessors, Archbishop Dimitrios has spoken for our church on various human rights issues. Right? Throughout his ministry, Archbishop Dimitrios leads in response to numerous national and international needs and crises, including the tremendous ordeals confronting the ecumenical patriarchate, the Macedonian issue, and the Cyprus issue. In March of 2005, Archbishop Dimitrios testified before the Helsinki Commission regarding the issues of religious freedom and the function of the ecumenical patriarchate in Turkey. He continues to guide the work of the archons of the ecumenical patriarchate in making known the plight of the Church of Constantinople. Right? That's the big thing. You know, there are archdioceses, you know, they speak for our church. The English-speaking world, that's the seat of power in D.C. You know, they speak for our church. It's like a big part of the Archbishop's job. So, you know, when Archbishop Dimitrios was, you know, during his tenure, was, of course, the September 11th attacks. This catastrophic event affected both the Archdiocese and our nation as a whole, as you know. Immediately following his first visit to Ground Zero, Archbishop Dimitrios called on all of our faithful to commit to deep prayer for our nation. So He kind of organized some response. He conducted memorial services and funerals for victims of the September 11th tragedy, and made repeated visits to Ground Zero. I think we took 1 million pictures of him there. I'm sure you can check those out on the internet. And he affirmed the need to rebuild St. Nicholas Church that was destroyed, right? And he led an extensive pastoral effort by the clergy and departments of the Archdiocese, and joined other religious leaders in Washington, D.C. and New York in advising federal, state, and local officials as they cope with the crisis and formulate plans for the future. He also called upon the faithful of the Archdiocese to contribute generously to the needs of the victims. These efforts raised over more than $2 million, which was given to meet the needs of families of Greek Orthodox victims and to fund supporting families of the firefighters and the Port Authority personnel there in New York who lost their lives on that tragic day. But perhaps the most significant kind of development under Dimitrios' tenure is the Episcopal Assembly. Unlike the bottom-up efforts of the 1994 Skoga Leading Year Conference, which aimed to have a united Orthodox Church, the Episcopal Assembly of the Orthodox bishops is from the top down. That is, with better support from the patriarchs abroad, aiming to one day fix the canonical problems of an overlapping archdioceses, dioceses, and jurisdictions here in America. Being the local archbishop of the highest ranking patriarchate, Archbishop Dimitrios is the chairman of the Episcopal Assembly of Bishops. Progress is slow, but at least they are meeting together and discussing many issues. There's a lot of committees, right? And think about what some of their goals are, right? If we ever had kind of an archdiocese as just America, different parishes would still keep their ethnic flavors or whatever, but they might not have a bishop of the same, ethnic background. Anyway, there's a committee for agencies, for the church agencies, endorsing those things. Committee for canonical affairs, committee for regional planning, right? That means formulating a proposed plan to organize all the faithful in various jurisdictions and dioceses, right? There's a committee on church and society, committee on clergy matters, committee on ecumenical relations, financial, legal affairs, committee on on liturgy, committee on military chaplaincy, a committee for monastic communities, pastoral practice, right? Because there's different pastoral practices. For example, some converts in different jurisdictions, are they chrismated into the church? Are they baptized? Committee for theological education, a committee for youth. Okay, there's all these committees. It'll take years, okay, to see how all this plays out. And it will definitely flow into the next archbishop's tenure, okay? Will there be a united church in America? Are we coming full circle? Are we coming full circle to the pan-Orthodox parishes of the 1800s? Will the Greek Archdiocese of America, with 540 parishes, disappear within our lifetime and melt into the United Orthodox Church in America, here in America, the great melting pot? Only God knows. Thank you.
Any questions for Father Jason?
Yes, I do. Thank you for all the information you gave us about the history of our bishops and bishops. It's good to know, and there's a lot of discouragement because these guys also play politics versus increase the church. The sad part for me is during your information was good. Nobody said, how can we grow the church? How can we bring more people to the church? How can we educate our kids in the church? Which today we're suffering. When I say we, the Greek Orthodox churches, because they're closing. We have a lot of them in Minnesota closed, Iowa, and so on. And I'm very disappointed about the future. Okay? The other thing is, we are the largest Orthodox church in America, not our church, church. And we have small churches, Syrian, Egyptian, and everything else, which they don't have a mass to maintain churches because there's a small number. And I didn't hear anybody of bishops, archbishops, only the Bishop Iapelos. He tried to do something, he got kicked in the butt. And for me, it's very disappointing these individuals get into this power, but nobody spoke. How can you grow? How can you make the church, the Orthodox Church, to be recognized in the United States, to be a member? Now, recently I saw some statistics. We have 800,000 members. 400 people claim that they're going regular, and only 22 or 24% attend church regular. And sorry, but I'm very disappointed that all this history of bishops, they were looking for themselves, but they did not look how to grow the church. That's what we live together today. The churches are closing, and nobody has a plan or a strategy to unite the churches, to bring more members. But anyway, thank you for your...
Yeah, thank you. So to respond to that, I mean, first of all, there's a lot of, it's a big issue, okay, beyond the scope of this lecture. Partly, they're products of their times, too. You have to understand that, right? With these huge waves of immigration, right? When there's kind of like, maybe more of a tendency to have like an Orthodox, United Church, right? Or something like that. Or with these early parishes in the 1800s. Well, when all these Greeks came, okay, it was like shifting demographics, that was a very difficult thing to kind of handle, right? Because of canonical issues and all that. So that's part of it. As far as like growing the church, okay, the church is definitely trying through SCOBA and then now with the Episcopal Assembly to work together, right? And work together, we can stand, right? Divide we fall. It is an unusual thing for Orthodoxy, what happened here with the immigration. It's not, so it's like unprecedented kind of situation that we have here in the United States. So understandably, it takes some time to sort that out, right? That, when you have different groups and bishops, and you can't just say, oh yeah, we're all together. It's very complicated because you have to meet together. I mean, look at what we did. It was just just a summer ago, we finally had all our bishops or representatives of the different churches get together, right? With the Holy and Great Council there in Crete. Hey, when's the last time we've had something like that? The Seventh Ecumenical Council, okay? More than a millennium. That's so long. So it's kind of, there's some baby steps, right? But I think, I listed these committees to kind of articulate that they are thinking about all these things, these kind of issues. It's not that, they're not blind to this. It can't be. They're the ones that give the statistics. They're the ones that look at the baptismal reports and stuff like that.
You think that the Orthodox Church has a plan or a strategy to make some, modifications? Because we know the immigration stopped from Europe.
For the Greeks,
stopped. For the Greeks. But anyway, so we can be more, American Orthodox or United Orthodox. We call the people together. So we can keep our church. If we want to maintain our churches, that's my opinion, we have to bring American people to the church too.
Right. So it's a shifting, right, that's been happening for longer than maybe it should, from an immigrant community to being, reaching out, right? And that's the way to survive, of course. Right? And so you do see things, the ideas are there, right? You think of Meletios and his speech when he became patriarch of Constantinople, he hoped to see the American church, but it really, it took a lot of time, and part of it has to do too with the authority structure of the Orthodox Church. That the patriarch of Constantinople, you can't just snap his fingers and everyone goes in line. So it is a difficult thing, and I don't want to. It is a problem, right? Part of it is a function of immigration. Part of it is a function of how our authority structure is in our church.
Is it so important to, when you talk about Greek Orthodox Church or Romanian, is it so important to grow the church because of the culture, because of the background, or is it more important to grow the church of Jesus Christ? So, I mean, I'm a non-immigrant. Well, I was. I'm just blended here for so many years. So it was really interesting to hear you talk about the Royalists and the Republicans. I went to 1 Corinthians 3, where Paul is talking to the Corinthians, and I'll just read a few brief passages here. Is that, and I think it will help address your question about growing the church. It says, I had to talk to you as though you were of this world, or as though you were infants in the Christian life. I had to feed you with milk, not with solid food, because you weren't ready for anything stronger. And you still aren't ready. You still are controlled by your sinful nature. You are jealous of one another and quarrel with each other. Doesn't that prove that you are controlled by your sinful nature? Aren't you living like the people of the world? When one of you says, I am a follower of Paul, the other says, I am a follower of Apollos, aren't you acting just like the people of the world? So then it goes down, it's not important who does the planting or who does the watering. What's important is that God made the seed grow. The one who plants and the one who waters work together with the same purpose, and both will be rewarded. For we are both God's workers. You are God's field. You are God's building. So I think if you want the church to grow, we have to move beyond the ethnicity so much of this and that, because having come from Presbyterian and attended different churches, when we stand before the judgment seat of God, denomination isn't going to matter. God's where there's no male, no female, no Greek, no Gentile. It's what we did. So I think for the church to grow, we have to move beyond the ethnicity and focus on this plant, on this planting, the watering, and let God do the growing. And remember that we are God's building.
I think tonight I'm sitting with a young man here. He's from Syria. I'm from Greece. We are Orthodox. We are not Syrian Orthodox. We're not Greek Orthodox. We are Orthodox. Okay? And for many years, of this community, I brought people from work, people from my wife's relatives here. And the first Greek says, well, we're not Greeks. This is for Greeks, because we used a lot also the language. Now we're changing a little bit. But a few years ago, it was all Greek, So we have to look that we are Orthodox, regardless if you are Romanian, or Syrian, or Greek, or things like that. And I think the bishops have to come down and recognize the needs of the church to grow it.
Yeah. So, yeah, very good. Yeah, they are. They're working on it, right? They also have to consider some historical aspects, right? That's kind of ignored in this church, in this lecture. When it comes to church unity or whatever, you think of the Iron Curtain. How much could we work on stuff when there was the Iron Curtain? How much could we with the iron yoke? Right? I mean, Guyana wasn't even freed until, was it 1921 or something, right? So, there's historical aspects too, where the churches, could communicate and work on these issues as they could have. But anyway, so having said that, of course, we're agreeing we've got to work on this, and they are, and we'll see what comes out of the school center. Although it's kind of slow going, to be frank. But they're starting to move things, which is a blessing.
May I?
Yes, sir.
I'm Deacon Basil from St. Pantaleon's Russian Orthodox Church, and I would like to answer something you said and just make a couple additions in general here to this discussion. First of all, you say when we come before the throne of God, denomination won't matter, ethnicity won't matter. Well, ethnicity won't matter, national origin won't matter, but that's kind of Protestant thinking that we're just a denomination. We aren't. Orthodoxy is the church, and when you say denomination won't matter, that unfortunately is not true, because the Orthodox are the body of Christ, other denominations are not. So that one does matter. Now, as far as how to grow the church, as Father said, we have to start out with small steps to overcome what's happened in the last 200 years. And a very great step is the Standing Council of Bishops, and not the SCOBA, but the Council of Orthodox Bishops, and in general, the changing mindset of the clergy. And I can't speak to other areas of the country, but for Minnesota, Mayoga, the Mid-East Orthodox clergy,
Minnesota Eastern
Orthodox Clergy Association is a very good example of how we are working on that problem. And I've spoken to others from other areas of the country who are very impressed with Mayoga. It's all very good in theory to talk about let's unite the Orthodox Church in America, let's get rid of Greek, let's get rid of Russian, let's get rid of this. But in order to remain canonical, it's easier said than done. We can criticize our bishops, we can criticize the bishops across the seas, but in order for the Orthodox Church to be not only Orthodox but canonical, because we are where we are, every step has to be taken with the blessing and approval of not only the ecumenical patriarch in Constantinople across the sea, but the Patriarch of Russia, the Patriarch of Serbia, the Patriarch of Antioch, and all the others. And we literally have to work out a solution to which no one has serious objections to, either the church authorities here or the church authorities there. Now, that may be our long-term goal, but I think at least, and many others agree with me, that it is sufficient for now and is at least a very healthy step in the right direction, rather than trying to eliminate the Greek Orthodox Church, the Russian Orthodox Church, the Antiochian Orthodox Church, to simply strive for cooperation and understanding. And the Pan-Orthodox Vespers that we hold in Great Lent is a wonderful example of this. The Pan-Orthodox attendance of the Festival of Light, the St. Gregory Palamas weekend, is a good example of this. We need to start at, rather than waiting for bishops to solve everything, we can start at the local level, not only with our bishops in America cooperating with each other, even though they're not part of the same jurisdiction, but with local clergy in Minnesota expanding the idea that we are all one. Even though we're different jurisdictions, they're all one church. And trying to increase cooperation exactly like Mayoga is doing between all the parishes. And that's, in my opinion, a very good first step and will do a lot to solve the problem. When we change the mindset of each, slowly start to change the mindset of our parishioners, that they aren't just part of a Greek church, but they are part of an Orthodox church that has many different flavors and many different styles, and become part. And we can all do this by encouraging participation in pan-Orthodox events. And by encouraging an interest of special events. If one parish has a special miracle working icon or something, visit it. If one parish has their bishop visiting. Well, up until now it's been, well, the Russians come if the Russian bishop visit, the Greeks come if the Greek bishops visit. Well, no, let's go, let's all go see the Greek bishop when he's in town. Let's all go see the Romanian bishop when he's in town. Let's all make it, yeah, church camp with the kids. Let's all make, sorry, I'm taking.
Thank you, Deacon Vasily. I want to respect our time this evening. First of all, thank you, Father Jason, for a very detailed presentation. Appreciate all your hard work in preparing your offering to us this evening. Just wanted to maybe add a little footnote about some of the things you talked about. You mentioned a lot of the history of our archbishops here in America, and just in case anybody doesn't know how that, let's say, touched us on the local level, you may know here at St. George Greek Orthodox Church, we welcomed Archbishop Athenagoras before he became Patriarch in 1939, 1940, right around the time of the founding of our community. There's a photo of him with a few people on the steps of the old church, and it's a very, very impressive photo. Archbishop Michael came here in the 50s and consecrated our church when it was still the old mansion. And then after him, of course, Archbishop Yakos came and consecrated our church here in 1975, the new building. And then, of course, after him, Archbishop Spiridon came and was presided over the National Young Adult Conference that was held here in the Twin Cities in 1997. And then, of course, Archbishop Demetrius has been to the Twin Cities a couple times. 2008 when he gave a prayer at the Republican National Convention, and then in 2009, the next year, he was here when we hosted the National St. John Chrysostom Oratorical Festival, which was a joint venture between St. George and St. Mary's, Minneapolis. So a lot of the history that Father Jason was speaking about has touched us in our own parishes here in the Twin Cities. So just wanted everybody to be aware of that. So again, thank you for your being with us this evening, and we look forward. If you would like to see any of the books, Father Jason has them on the table here, and there might be still a couple being passed around. So why don't we close with prayer, and if you have any questions for Father Jason, you're welcome to talk to him afterwards. Thank you, Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. O Lord and Master of my life, take from me the spirit of sloth, faint-heartedness, lust of power, and idle talk, but rather give to me, your servant, the spirit of chastity, humility, patience, and love. Yes, O Lord and King, grant me to see my own faults and not to judge my brother or sister, for you are holy, always, now, and forever, into the ages of ages. Amen. Good evening, everyone. Blessed Lent.